Hello. Holy cow, look at everybody. I have to say, if I was going to be in a room of people reminiscing, it's awesome to be in a room where someone throws out a Streets of San Francisco reference. And everybody's just like, oh, yeah, Streets of San Francisco. So thank you for that. Like, fuck yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, it's like 1983. I'm on a Greyhound bus coming back from Boston University. We're pulling into Port Authority. I'm covered in like that 4.5 hour sweat of like kind of half sleeping and half not. And I just finished my first year at BU in the theater department. And I'm totally disoriented. I have no idea who I am because all of a sudden, this like 19-year-old kid, this half black, half Jewish kid from Manhattan now knows how to ride a unicycle and like jump on a trampoline and walk a tightrope and have an inkling of what it's like to actually have a proactive, emotionally vulnerable experience. And the way I was rewarded for this was by being cut by the theater department and told that I should choose another profession. So in the moment that I actually found the beginning of my identity, it was totally cut off. And so I'm pulling into Port Authority, which is a very similar experience. And as I'm kind of pulling in for anybody from New York, anybody East Coast? Okay, good. It's gonna get familiar. So I pull in and down to that second level, and as the bus opens, you know, I'm just kind of walking out dizzy with this duffel bag, and I'm hit in the face. I'm like slapped in the face with that like stale layer of heat that lives down there, that's unique. It's got its own like flavor, and it's just like, wake up, man. You are in New York. You're back home. It's 1983. Are you kidding? You gotta go find out who you are. Okay, you're gonna go, you're gonna get a Village Voice, you're gonna go get a job, you're gonna fall in love, you're actually gonna call your best friend, John, and he's gonna tell you, you're gonna get an apartment down in the Village, and you're gonna go to Second Coming Records, you're gonna pick up all the records, and you're gonna go get falafel for 75 cents, and you're gonna get that job, right? And you're gonna find out who you are, because you're in the center of the universe, man. So just wake up, right? And I thought, okay. So obviously there's only one thing to do, and that's go to Danceteria, right? So about 5 hours later, I'm standing in the middle of a bunch of people. I'm looking up at a screen because I'm just mesmerized by Shock the Monkey video with Peter Gabriel and all this crazy ass makeup. And I've got a Tom Collins in my hand because like I still don't know how to order alcoholic beverage. And it's packed with people, and it's heavy and it's sweaty, and all of a sudden, like the waves just part, because this woman is just walking by with this giant boombox, this young girl. She's got this like kind of lace skirt and like all these bangly earrings and bracelets and shit. And it's just all you hear is like jangle, jangle, jangle. And she's like coming through, and she's got this t-shirt and this like mesh cut off thing on top of her. And she's followed by these two guys who also have like cut off t-shirts. And they just stop, they put the giant boombox down, and she just starts moving like, and then one guy puts his finger on the boombox, and you hear like bum, bum, bada bum, bada bum, bum, and she just starts singing but no, she's not singing, she's lip syncing, like. But you hear out of the box, you hear holiday, it could be so nice, and I'm like mesmerized. I'm like immediately like I'm in a Warner Brothers cartoon. Right? And I'm like the wolf at the table who's like bang, bang, bang. And my tongue starts rolling out, and my eyes are like boom, boom, boom. And I'm just fixed on this human. And she's just bright, and she's got this giant black bow, and she's tied up in her hair. And I've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with her. I'm gonna lose my virginity to someone like that. And I was like, oh, I'm a virgin, by the way. And I'm like 19, I'm a virgin, because I was saving myself for Christy McNichol. Or like, what? It was, or no, or what? Or like Lisa Whelchel? Or like Helen Hunt, who I think was the girl who like James and 15 actually lost his virginity to in James and 15. Like, if we're Streets of San Francisco, we're going there, right? And I remember the wake-up call off the bus, and he was like, okay, so you go get that paper. So I left that night, and I went out, I got the Village Voice, I opened it up, and there was like a secret sales job. So I went the next morning down to this room in the garment district with all these other people who had shown up, but we didn't know what was going on. This woman had invented this brilliant thing called a massage pillow. And it was like this pillow, but there was a motor in it, and when you lean back, it would start to vibrate. And it was amazing. But she had sold all the licenses to big stores, but she got a ragtag team of renegade people together in this like empty office space. And she stuffed like 10 of them in a duffel bag, and you would get a partner, and then you would get a block, a certain block in the city, and you would hit like every office building, and you would sneak in, right? And you would go up and you would just hit like every secretary who was there. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what's going on. And she picks a partner, and as I'm standing there like flummoxed, I turn around and I see this blonde girl who's got this big black like ribbon in her hair, and she's tied up, and she's got this cut off like t-shirt with this mesh stuff, and she's got all these bracelets. And she looks at me and she's like, "Hi, you Jonathan? Oh my God, we're gonna have so much fun, aren't we?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it's Madonna." But her name was Liz, and she was from Brooklyn. And so, right. So it was the two of us, right, with this duffel bag on like 28th Street, right, between 6th and 7th. And we're sneaking into these buildings, going into offices. And the pitch was like really simple. You're supposed to like knock on the door, and you bust in, and you're like, "Hi, I was just next door. And Sally, she told me I should come over here." And the idea was like, if you just get it behind somebody's back or underneath their feet, you were done. And you just saw them. And 9 times it worked most of the time. And even if someone said no, like Liz would just stand there and she'd be like, "Oh, yeah, okay, so no, it's okay. But if you were going to get it, which one would you get, the green one or the blue one?" And they'd be like, "Oh, well, the green one." She's like, "Okay, yeah, we get the blue one." And right, "Okay, sign them up." And then you'd say we'd either give you cash or you had to write a check, right? But Liz was a pro. And within, I don't know, a couple hours every day, our bag would be empty, or it would the last through, and we had to get in there before the cops would chase us out of the building because we're not supposed to be there selling. So it's the two of us just running out of all these buildings, like onto the street. And as soon as we were done, Liz would just like tap me on the shoulder. She'd be like, "Okay, let's go down to the Village." I'm like, "Huh? Okay." And she would take me down to Greenwich Village, and it's like she knew every single person who was down there, whether we were in Canal Jeans or the back fence, or every single other place. And they all kind of knew her in this really beautiful general way. And I was just tagging along like a puppy, like this like sweet little like happy puppy, as I would sit in the back fence, and she'd be like, "Come on, let's get high." And I'd be like, "The middle of the day?" Like, because I was the kid who was always like with the group of people, be like, "I don't think we should climb that fence." But I'm sitting here, I'm like 2 hits, and I'm totally buzzed just watching her like hold court in every single place. And everybody had their eyes fixed on her, but it was in this mix of like attraction and respect, and it was fantastic. And I remembered at the time, I couldn't get the attention of anybody, but my friend John had given me this trick that we were using for the summer of hypnosis. And the whole thing was really complicated. It was like, okay, just look at every woman and say, "They want me." And so everywhere I was sitting, I was just like, and it was actually starting to work. Like it was, I think it was just the fact that you were making eye contact with people, like for more than 3 seconds. But I was like, this is incredible. But I still had no game. I still couldn't like go up anybody and follow through. It would just be like on the subway, you finally like, right. So, but I was completely enamored with this woman. And she was a hairdresser. She was going to open up her own shop, and she would put her hands like right in my hair up against this guy. I had hair at that time, right? And you know that thing like a massage therapist or a hairdresser when they touch you and you know that they know that thing. And I was, oh my God. I was absolutely in love. But the job was way too quick, and it ended really fast. She had a boyfriend in Brooklyn named Phil, and she would talk about it all the time. And we ended up losing track of each other. And I had to get another job, which happened to be then at the most amazing place in New York City, which was on 6th Avenue and 10th Street, with this amazing discovery. And it was called Steve's Ice Cream. The amazing discovery was that you could actually take ice cream and put stuff in it, and you could fold it around and then put it in a cup. And it blew everybody's mind. And like there were lines down the street. And we were just standing there, like flipping this ice cream. And people would just be looking at us like, wow. And we were literally rock stars. And all of a sudden I had this like confidence. And I actually got the loft with some friends down on North Moore Street. And we're down there and I thought, oh my God, I gotta call Liz. And I called her up on the phone. And she's like, oh my God, Jonathan, how are you? And I was like, hi, you wanna come over and get high? And she's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, let me get Phil to drop me off. And she comes over and she's wearing this white t-shirt that she cut up the middle and then added buttons to so that now it's like a button-down shirt. And she looks at me and she sits down and I pull out my new discovery, which is a bong, like that I was really excited about. And we ended up getting high. And she's looking around this loft and she's like, wow, this is really amazing. And we're sitting there on this bed and the loft itself is behind the Martinson Coffee Factory. So like literally every day when I wake up, it's like the entire world is making coffee. And I'm rubbing her shoulders and I start to unbutton her shirt and she looks at me, she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm unbuttoning your shirt. And I look at her like, and she looks at me and goes, you're so different now. You're really growing up. And I'm like, it's okay? And she's like, yes. And I unbutton her shirt and she leans in and she kisses me. And I'm immediately back in this Warner Brothers cartoon now. And I'm seeing literal stars like all over the place. And we're like smiling and laughing and endlessly kissing. And I'm inside of her and I'm overwhelmed and there's whippets are flying everywhere. And it's just like all this laughter and sex for the entire day. And I never told her that she was my first, right? But I mean, I think I was overwhelmed or something like that. But I thought she has to know because I was so vehemently focused on the missionary position, right? But I never had the chance to tell her. And we lost touch. And then, of course, in an analog world, I didn't know how, after I wanted to get in touch, how I was ever going to find this person. And then 22 years later, through Facebook, I get this message with this article from Elvis Costello. And she said, I sent this to you. I know you used to love him. Are you Jonathan? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Liz. And I was like, yes. And I was coming to New York and I make plans to see her. And we show up in this restaurant. And I told her over these tables that are like packed with people, I just told her like, you don't know, but you were my first. And she's like, oh my God. And she's like, really? Why didn't you say something? Like, how did you told me you were saving yourself? Like, how did you wait? Why was it me? And I was like, well, because I said I was going to lose my virginity to Madonna. But it turns out that I found somebody better than Madonna because she was real. And as I watched her, I realized how she was engaging with everybody. And she wasn't this deity. She was this beautiful girl who what LL Cool J would call a round the way girl, who like the girl who like would make you soup, but she'd throw a punch for you, you know? And she looked at me, she said, oh my God, I never knew. I really wish you had said something because after that day, I kind of fell in love with you. And I was like, oh my God. And she says, oh, and another thing, okay? We didn't look like Madonna. Madonna looked like us. Thank you.